the 10 morally reprehensible 80s movies. Now we're going to the 90s for the top 10 morally reprehensible 90s movies. My voice is weird today. It's getting tongue-tied everything. I don't know what's up. So yeah, I'm going to do... there are a few films I've covered already, like Crash and my previous video. I'm not going to cover, because I don't think they're morally reprehensible at all. Some people... I mean, I'm going to have some humor with this video, but if I put Crash in, they would say that people might take it the wrong way. So I'm not going to do it. There are far greater titles to do it with. So I'm going to start off with The Crow, number 10. Now, the first video I done this, Twilight Zone, the movie, was number 1 because of the death. I don't want to do that again. Also, The Crow's a better film than Twilight Zone, the movie, a much better film. But they still released it after the leading man had died on their set. So I've got to include it. There's no way I cannot include it. Even though it's a good film, they did release it, and they did make a franchise out of it. So it's a strange film to have put out. And watching it, you still feel a bit odd about it. So it's one of those films I can't quite divorce it from what happened in the set. So for me, that's why it's on the list. But I'm not going into the reasons again, because I did it last week and I don't want to repeat myself. Okay, number 9 is Funny Games, Michael Hanke film. This one is kind of more humorous because it's taking the mickey out of morally reprehensible movies. But I don't think it's a very good film. I don't think he understands action movies of what they mean to people. He just says this is horrible, and he treats it as almost reality and starts to prod at people's sense of morality when you start to like the people who are getting the violence done to them, which I think is a very obvious thing. And to be honest, it kind of put me off the director for a while because I thought it was so obvious and so dull. I just think I wish this film was better than it was, to be honest. Like, I want to like it, but whenever I see it, it's like, it's obvious. It's too obvious. And I think that's what bugs me. That's why it's on the list, is like, if you're going to take a subject matter, take it seriously and be truly morally reprehensible in an interesting way. This one, you only get half, and it's pretty boring. So I'm including a list because it offended people, but to me, it didn't offend people as much as it should have. Man Bite Dog is a much better film, a much more funnier film. It makes you feel a lot more guilty watching it, just because of filmmaking, and it's just much more amusing, and it gets under your skin a lot more. Right, number 8 is Leon the Professional, mainly because of the suggestion. This is another film I really like, but it is a bit dodgy. I mean, Natalie Portman's character is 13, and she is in love with the John Renault character, who is mentally not very advanced, shall we say, and Portman is put in weird costumes throughout it, and it is weird. Even though it's ultimately good-natured, he's trying to protect her, and she has to learn how to grow up a little bit. There's still some crazy stuff in this film. And also, Gary Oldman is wonderfully morally reprehensible in this film as a character who has no filters at all, and he does horrific stuff. So this one I like a lot, but it's dodgy. It's really dodgy. It's super weird, in a way only a Frenchman could be. Number 7, and I'm amazed this is not further up on my list, Natural Born Killers, because it's bloody awful. It's really bad, and it is taking morally reprehensible characters and trying to make them cool, and try to act as if we're above this, we're commenting on it. You are tied to this because you love all this stuff. So it's basically Funny Games, but done even worse. Because it does have that smugness from the director, and this idea that he's above it all and he understands violence, but you idiots don't. And he's just presenting all these moronic characters as if that are interesting, or as if you could even ever listen to any of them and take anything from them. But you just look at them thinking, you're a moron, you're a moron, you're a moron, you're a moron. And the director's the biggest moron. And it's awful, and it's so smug. And it really is one of the ones I actually do think is morally reprehensible in the 90s. It's just like, you took an idea that could have been good and you made it terrible. You made it really smug. Number 6. We're going pretty fast in this one. I think because I've covered quite a lot of these films already, or I don't think there's that much to talk about with them beyond their kind of flaws. Number 6 is Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, which is another one. It's in it because it's not morally reprehensible. It's because people thought it was. I mean, the director made Will Things afterwards, which is genuinely, wonderfully morally reprehensible because he knows it is and he's having a laugh. And this one, it's looking at a serial killer from their point of view and showing the cold logic of it all. So it's wonderful in how it looks the morality of someone who doesn't have any. And it's creepy and it's terrifying. And it also gets censored by the British Board of Film Classification to reverse its meaning and during one of the most disturbing sequences where that's my big bugbear in this one. This is why the British version actually is in this and the proper version isn't, because the BBFC took a sequence and added a shot which took away all the logic of the sequence, where the director was trying to implicate you morally and you're watching this violence, and then you realize the characters are watching the violence too. And then the censor put that information ahead of when the viewers meant to know that, so it actually took away from the horror of the situation, which is very, very annoying. It's very annoying to the director, and as a viewer, I'm pretty disgusted by that was allowed to happen. That was just offensive. So, but Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer is a wonderful film. You should see it. Number 5, Godzilla, because it's shit. And it's taking Godzilla and ruining it, destroying it, and how can you mess up a guy in a giant suit destroying Tokyo? I find it morally reprehensible because it destroyed Godzilla. It's indefensible. It's a Lost Boys logic, okay? I don't care. I need one spiteful, stupid entry on this list, and that's it. It's Godzilla movie. It's boring. And Godzilla films are not boring, apart from this one. Although if you ask Asian movie enthusiast, he would say the Gareth Edwards Godzilla is boring, but he's wrong. He's completely wrong. Number 4 is Fight Club, which is another one that is not morally reprehensible, but it was viewed as by the media because they're stupid. This one's a parody of the crazy ideas that men have about how they define themselves in society and how that can go completely wrong. How what can take away, what can go from an existential threat can be turned up into a fascist machine quite quickly, because if you don't have the distance from yourself to realize where your emotions and where your impulses are leading you. So it's actually a very moral film about why you should not do this. But because people can be stupid, they didn't see it as such and said, oh, this is morally reprehensible because, oh my God, what people actually did this. And it's like, no, this is a warning against don't do this. This is why you shouldn't do it. And the film is smart because it actually takes real life tensions throughout the film. So each step of the film is taken from things that really do disturb you about society and then gives it to meatheads who take that as a reason to do even stupider things. So this idea of what do stupid people see in society and what makes them react in an even dumber way, in a way that actually is very destructive and very disturbing. And why do cults exist and why do cults get built up? Because they take things that really are wrong with society and they filter them through people who do not have the mental capacity to understand how to deal with them. Look at the internet. Look at so many arguments. It's like, most of this is caused by people being stupid. And if you don't call me stupid, just like in Fish Call 1, don't call me stupid. You know, yeah, you're a moron. And that's what happens in a lot of problems in society. People are stupid. but they don't want to be called stupid because that offends them. Yeah, well, be offended. It's immoral to not call people stupid when they're being stupid. That's the immoral part of it. Okay, number 3 is Forrest Gump, for obvious reasons. It takes this. It's meant to be a satire because you're meant to be looking at Forrest ironically and looking at all this stuff ironically, but it's so sentimental. It takes everything serious at the same time, and it doesn't really work as satire because the targets aren't very good. So ultimately, it comes as a very conservative look at the 60s and 70s troubles in America and saying, well, if only we had someone we could feel sentimental about, all of this can be ignored. It's pretty repulsive, and it comes from a good director, Robert Zemeckis, who was a good director. This was the start of his decline. Like he was before this, he was on a good run. He did Roger Rabbit, he did Back to the Future films, Death Becomes Her, Used Cars, and this was the first film where it was like, oh. Then he had to come back with Contact, which is not flawless, but it does have some good stuff in it. And then decline really started to happen. There were some good films in between, but there were some real problem films too. But this was the start of the decline. And it's just this thing is like you never had a coherent view of your own era, and you added sentimentality and very conservative, simplistic notions that a whole generation can now say, oh, look, that represents me in this film, this stupid film. See the logic of Forrest Gump, see the wisdom of this stupid person, Forrest Gump. And it's like, no, the person's a moron. The film's stupid. It's giving you a get out so you don't have to think. And that's why it's morally reprehensible. You give stupid people a get out. That's the theme of most of these videos I'm doing about reprehensible films. Number 2 is Patriot Games. This takes the Irish conflict, which is very complicated, very difficult. There's a lot of things going back centuries. Religious wars, ties to who should have Ireland be tied to Britain or be on its own. And there's pros and cons to everything. There's lots of people who are unionists, lots of people who are republicanists who wanted Ireland to be free. Other ones don't. Even there, some of the people in the Southern Ireland are very religious and treat religion seriously in a way that's a bit backwards at times, or at least it was. But it's still a society that has deep religious beliefs that's not tied to Britain, so it's a very complicated situation. And there's no real easy get. It's just a case of trying to slowly improve the situation. Hopefully, it will get better and better. There's no simplistic solution. I mean, I think personally, Britain should be out of Ireland, but there are arguments against that are valid. But I'm part Irish, so obviously I'd rather Ireland be its own country and develop painfully through its own problems. But it's a difficult situation. But I thought about front of what my opinions are, and I don't think they're very well thought out, clear opinions, or just the average person's opinions from my point of view. It's like I'm not an expert on Ireland. This is just my emotional opinion. But Patriot Games takes all of this and makes a stupid revenge plot out of it, which films have been doing for years. But this one was so dumb. It was so insultingly stupid about Ireland in every way. So insultingly stupid Britain, where the Irish attack a member of the royal family, and then the Jack Ryan character defends this person, and then because he kills the younger brother of Sean Bean's character, Sean Bean's after him for the rest of the film, above and beyond any logic. So it becomes a revenge film about this maniac who's horrible because he's so focused on this. It becomes this thing about Ireland that was so cliched. It's like every Irish plays Clonard type of thing. The Britain is not Britain from the time it was set. It's Britain from 30 years before. And it's very conservative and very much a look at the situation as it's not anymore, even in that time. And then we're going to simplify it to be a revenge plot and make the American hero the one to solve things that cannot be solved unless you do it incrementally and you see each other as complicated, difficult people. This film does not do any of that. It does a simplistic plot. It's badly written, badly directed. And to be honest, the IRA were more about the politicians. The politicians were their targets. The royal family, even at that point, didn't have the power to do anything. It was really more the politicians. They blew up. They tried to assassinate Thatcher in Britain. That's their targets. Instead, this sentimental royal family thing, which becomes very royalist and very patriotic to Britain in a way that Britain really isn't anymore either. Britain's more complicated than what it presented, and it was like, this is so insulting. Again, it's one of those things that any country could point at a mainstream film set in their country. This is so insulting, it's not us. So it's just a fill in. This is my version of that, but every country has it. Because American films, they do not research very well. Okay, we're going to the final one now. And don't worry, I've done this film before in a video, so it won't be very long. It's Showgirls. It's Paul Verhoeven's satire on the disgusting world of Las Vegas that was so hated and seen as so disgusting in every possible way. It was the officially morally reprehensible film of the 90s. I think it's funny as hell. It's a terrible script, but Verhoeven understands he's done a satire on American ambition and how crass and crude it can be, and taking it to his worst level, which is the sex industry and showgirls and show business mixed with sex, and he just takes the mickey at everybody. So that's what it is. That's what the film is. That's what it's about. I've done a whole video on it. Goes to the video. It's a hilarious film. So that's my top 10. I hope you enjoyed the list. Hope you enjoyed these videos. I'll be back with some more later, probably next week. So enjoy your week. Bye for now.